Hi guys, in this video we're going to look at one of the most important aspects of paddle, and that is footwork. Now to begin with, we're going to go over the basics for those of you that have not come from a competitive tennis background, whether it's a recreational tennis or you've had no racket sports or a different racket sport like badminton or squash. We're going to start from the beginning with the basic building blocks, and then the second half of the video we're going to talk about those from competitive tennis, how the footwork changes from paddle to tennis, and some important tips that can help you improve on the paddle court. So to learn the footwork from the beginning, we start with the basic building block, which is the split step. Now this is the start of all your movement around the court, whether you're at the net or at the back. And this is a very simple, just bounce on the toes. And what that does is it fires your calf and it gets your legs ready to move quickly. So you're going to do this when your opponent contacts the ball. You're going to bounce just on your toes, and if you can already tell which direction the ball's coming, you're going to end up pivoting with that bounce, so that sometimes it might look like this when you're at the professional level, or if you're not sure, you might bounce on your toes and then bounce and move straight away into the direction you can see that the ball is coming. Now, if you're new to paddle, this can be quite difficult to anticipate, so I would just focus on that split step, having it at the same time as your opponent contacts the ball, and to start your movement. So once you bounce, you continue to do your little steps on the toes of your feet, moving into position. Don't just bounce and then put your heels down, because then it's going to be very difficult for you to generate any movement after that.
Here you can see I split when he contacts the ball, and I'm also pivoting to move in the direction of that serve. I then, on the way back, also bounce as he's contacting the volley, so that I can be in a good position for that next shot.
One of the most important things to note about the footwork when you're learning the game is that you really cannot have enough of it. It's a little bit like in tennis. If you watch Roger Federer and you see how graceful he is with his movement around the court now, you don't consider that when he was a kid and he was learning the game, he had loads of little footwork and got himself to a level where he can judge that ball perfectly. The same with the World Padel Tour. When you see them playing, you're seeing them taking one or two big steps because they're anticipating exactly where that ball is going to come off the glass, and they know exactly where it's going to be. But if you're learning the game, then you need to start that process at the beginning. So that means when the ball bounces off that back glass, you're doing little steps back, comes off the glass, little steps forward to contact here. Whereas obviously players at a higher level, they might be able to judge exactly where that's going to be. They might take one step back and then one step forward, making it look a lot simpler. But at the beginning, it's really worth you putting in those extra footwork to get used to where the ball will be and how you can position yourself to hit it.
At a good level, it might just look like a split and then a bounce, or a split and then a lunge to hit the ball. But that's because the players have already practiced knowing where that ball is going to go. So when you're learning, especially on the more difficult shots, make sure you have lots of footwork. For example, when you're trying to get the technique right on the smash, you might need a few more steps than this.
Like most ball striking sports, it's important to have a solid base when you contact. So if you want to get in a good position to have that good base, you need little steps so you're in a good position, solid base and contact. If for whatever reason you set your base too early or you're not in the right place and you contact here, for example, you end up falling off the ball, you don't have that balance, and it also becomes very difficult for you to aim the ball where you want to go. Now we've covered the split step, little steps in position, and then a stable base. Now this is very similar to tennis. Now, the differences for paddle are the following. First of all, your opponents are at net and you're at the back, and that gives you about 5 or 6 meters for them to hit that ball and then you to react quickly. And what that means is that instead of you doing a wider, deeper split step like you might do in tennis, because in tennis you've got, their baseline to your baseline, you need a slightly lighter bounce on your toes, and don't go so deep, so that you can be faster to spring off and faster to step into different positions. That's the first one. Also, in paddle, you've got multi-directional movement patterns, which means that you could end up turning and stepping around and hitting the ball like this. In tennis, you've obviously got to hit the ball once it comes to you. You're not going to hit it when it's already gone past you. So your main job into tennis is to fast get into position to contact in front, whereas here, you could end up moving round the double glass or getting into position like that. So you need to be aware that if you're lighter on your feet and your feet are slightly closer together, that you're going to be able to move into those positions a lot faster.
This point illustrates, like many good points, that you can go from attacking to defending so quickly. And here you can see that the footwork required brings all 4 players into different areas of the court. You're moving in multi-directionals, you're coming forward and backwards, attacking the shots, defending the shots. Pretty much you have to move in every direction possible in order to be able to be in a good position for that ball. You will also notice with the split step, both players are split stepping when the opponent contacts the ball, because at that point you're not sure which person it's going to go to.
This is especially the case at net, and actually a common problem for tennis players coming to paddle. Often tennis players, they set a nice wide base like this, like you might do in tennis, because in tennis you're pushing one of 2 directions. But the difficulty in paddle is that you could be going in any of these directions. You could be moving forward, you could be going back for a lob, and they're fast reactive shots. So you need to have your stance slightly closer together. You have a little bounce on your toes, like a split step like you would normally do, but they're closer together so that it's easier and faster for your feet to move into the position to react to that ball.
The main thing to notice in this point is the narrow stance, and that narrow stance allows you to have a light split step, and that means that you can move quickly back for that bandeja like that shot, or when you're at net position you can move fast to the lateral so that you can have a split and then lunge like that, and it means that you can move in multiple directions as fast as possible. This light, fast footwork will mean that your movement is obviously better around the court, and therefore you'll get into better positions.
The last difference between tennis and paddle footwork is the need for explosive power. In tennis, you generate a lot of your power driving up through the legs, and in order to do that, you need to get your feet into a good position so that you can therefore prepare and hit that ball. Whereas in paddle, you don't need that power, especially from the back of the court. It's more about getting yourself into a good position. You might bend low in paddle. If the ball goes low off the glass, you need to get low and you bend with your legs, but you don't need to drive up fast like you would do in tennis to generate that power. At some point in the near future, we're going to put together a course for fitness and training that can help you on the paddle court. But for the moment, I hope you enjoyed that video on footwork, and if you've got any questions, please pop them in the comments below.